Okay, it's 3 o'clock, and our final committee meeting of the day is the Budget and Finance Committee. Those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Fusco, Boyes, and Bolden. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Viviano. I'd like to call the Budget and Finance meeting to order this afternoon, and with that, we need an approval of the last time we met, the meeting minutes from the last budget meeting.
So move.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Okay, we have about 4 items in front of us. The first is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Akron International Soapbox Derby for the city of Akron to provide funding for operational support for planning and implementation of the 2025 Akron International Soapbox Derby and declaring an emergency. Mr. Fricker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is our annual $50,000 contribution to the Derby. It's the same amount as last year. I believe that Mr. Lash is going to introduce some people here from the Derby.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. It's my pleasure to bring before you the board chair of the International Soapbox Derby, Mrs. Jill Colasar, and the interim executive director, Mr. Dennis Van Flossen. So we will share the current plans for the International Soapbox Derby at this time.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, hit the button.
Thank you.
There you go. Speak into the mic.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I am Jill Colasar. I'm the chair of the International Soapbox Derby Board of Directors. And I'm not only the chair of the board, I am also what's called a Derby mom. My daughter has raced for 9 years, recently retired. She aged out. But I'm proud to say I have walked up and down that hill so many times. If you've seen the Akron Hill, it's got quite a steep hill. But anyway, I am proud to say that I am part of that community because it really is a family. It's a community. I know the kids that race. I'm happy to see how excited they get to compete and work with each other. I'm excited to see, just last week, an example of our outreach for the Akron local schools that had 55 kids come and experience the thrill of the hill, as well as learning all about STEM and teamwork and partnership. I'm also happy to have experienced and participated in the support of what's called the Super Kids. So the Soapbox Derby also supports kids that have special needs to give them opportunities where they may never have them before. So for all those reasons, I am excited to present to you as the Chair of Board of Directors what the Derby is all about and what we do. But more importantly, I want to introduce you to Dennis Van Flossen. As you might have heard, our former CEO, Scott Taylor, recently left our organization. And at that time, the board stepped in quickly. And with our search for interim leadership, we're proud to present to you Dennis Van Flossen, who we've asked to take on that role and responsibility. Dennis will tell you a little bit about himself, but one of the reasons why he is the perfect person for this position and to present to you today about our mission is that Dennis is also a former racer himself. Dennis got to experience that thrill of the hill, and I expect good things to him as he proceeds with our interim leadership for the organization. So, Dennis?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you to all you guys for everything you do for the city of Akron and for everyone in the community here. I am a former racer, actually a former world champion in 2007. I've been around the Soapbox Derby since the age of 5. You know, it's not too long ago, but it was long ago. And the Derby experience not only teaches STEM education, but values that really transfer to kind of all aspects of life. You know, in reality, I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for Soapbox Derby. Obviously, you know, the Soapbox Derby is a common theme, right? But the values that Derby teach you, the perseverance, the teamwork, commitment, integrity, all of those values that you learn from racing Soapbox Derby make me who I am today and made me why a great candidate as the executive director for the International Soapbox Derby. You know, this donation will help with the continued support for our STEM education lanes, but also support our upcoming All-American, which is our 87th running on Saturday, July 19th, and other community events throughout the year. Through these programs, we were able to support our mission in helping close to 55,000 youth and providing Akron with about $5 million in economic impact and $6 million in annual media impressions. our race day on July 19th typically gets a pretty big attendance, obviously, for media exposure and even personal attendance. And that's a big reason why the economic impact, I think, is a good measure there for you. And then also on that handout we just handed out, I would like for you to flip to page 3. And at the bottom, the last quote from our current GRC quotes from this year is a good example of what it means to our youth. This was the funnest thing I've done all year. I really like going down the hill. So it's not all about going down the hill, but it's about experiencing the thrill of the hill and what you do when you're experiencing that thrill of the hill. The Derby experience got me to where I am today, and I think it's a great metaphor for our youth of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jill. Very good. So with that, Mr. Fricker, what would be your pleasure for this ordinance?
We would like to pass if we could.
Okay. Can I get a motion from the committee to suspend the rules with a favorable report?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go. Thank you. Thank you. It's a great event in Akron. Very good. All right, our second piece coming before us is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Power Engineers Incorporated for the completion of a new phase of the city's special assessment system and declaring an emergency. Mr. Fricker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is kind of the final piece of our, we added some functionality to our existing GIS system in order to process the assessment. So this is the implementation cost for that. We had some last year, and this is the final piece of that.
Okay, very good. So any questions from our committee members? Councilman Bolton?
Question, it says it's not, this was not in the budget. Was it in last year's budget or is it just an addition?
We did have a little bit, we knew there was going to be some carryover, so this is in the assessments budget, correct?
Okay. So it's not in the budget.
No, it is in the budget.
Okay. 'Cause I'm looking at the financials, it says it was not, so that's why I asked. So, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the assessment budget. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
It's the assessment fund, so all of the street cleaning and lighting, as well as the operation of the assessments and the debt service that we pay on the assessments is all in one fund, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay. What's your pleasure on this one, Mr.?
We would like to pass this as well.
Okay. Another motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report. Got a
So moved.
motion and
So moved.
second? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Be passed this evening. Third piece is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to accept and expend a grant from the city's for Financial Empowerment Fund and declaring an emergency. Now we have Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a $50,000 contribution from the from the Nationwide Cities for Financial Empowerment. We are part of that organization, and in conjunction with the United Way, we operate one here in Akron. This is a $50,000 donation that we will be passing on to the United Way to continue the operations, staffing, and training.
Very good. Very good. Questions from committee members? Any council members? Any questions? What would be your pleasure this afternoon?
Consent, please.
Consent? Can I get a motion for consent?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Put that on the consent agenda. Our fourth and final piece is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts for services related to developing and/or facilitating a 3-year pilot program to advance eligible residents' access to legal counsel and reduce barriers to acquiring legal representation and declaring an emergency. Very good. So we have some guests here today, but we're going to start off with our Director of Equity and Inclusion, Esther Thomas.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. We are here today to introduce the legislation regarding right to counsel for people who are facing eviction. And it's through a collaborative process with Community Legal Aid, United Way of Summit and Medina counties, and the City of Akron. When we talk about eviction, it isn't just a legal process, it's a destabilizing event that ripples through communities, and it worsens poverty, health outcomes, education, and community well-being. So I could go on about that, but I actually think our colleagues in the collaborative process, I would respectfully turn this over to the interim CEO and president of United Way,
Annie McFadden. No stranger.
Hello.
Hello.
Good
Nice to see
afternoon,
you
all.
again.
Good to see everybody's smiling faces.
Yes.
Annie McFadden, Interim President and CEO of United Way of Summit Medina. And this effort has definitely been a long time coming, right? This has transcended mayoral administrations, this has transcended presidential administrations, and it's definitely something that's been of a will of the community. It's no secret that we have a bit of a housing crisis here. There's a housing crisis nationwide, right? But it's something that we're trying to address in a myriad of ways. I know that you all, within your capacity, are trying to do that as well. So I think developing a right to counsel program has been on the mind of a lot of people for quite a long time now, right? There was an eviction summit that the community put together, Legal Aid and Fair Housing did, I do believe, back in 2022 to really talk about and elevate this, and we've really been talking about it at a high capacity ever since. But it takes a lot of coordination, right? A lot of prep, some money. So it's been a little bit a long time coming, but I really can say this partnership truly has been very collaborative. It's definitely something that the mayor has as a priority, and that every housing institution in this community really also has a priority of really focusing to try to mitigate evictions so that we can prevent as much homelessness as possible. A lot of what United Way does, right, is all about mitigation as much as we can. It becomes exponentially more expensive when somebody actually enters the homeless system as opposed to us being able to prevent it, right? So that's a lot of what we do through rapid rehousing and other measures. But this is just another tool in the tool belt that we can really use to kind of help mitigate some of that work. And I know Legal Aid, Ken, if you want to add anything, is definitely going to be a big part of this.
Okay.
Absolutely, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Ken Merkin. I'm the Director of Client Services at Community Legal Aid. I just wanted to give you some data. I think that kind of drills home how important this is going to be for Akron. Last year, in 2024, there were 3,055 evictions filed in Akron Municipal Court. 88% of those cases, the plaintiff, so the landlord, had an attorney. Only 3.21% of cases where the defendant had an attorney. And out of the majority of those 3.21% was an attorney from Community Legal Aid. I think we were a little over 2% of all defendants in evictions. The money that this pilot program that could provide us on an annual basis would increase that 2% to almost 10% when we're in full capacity. So you can just, that's a significant contribution that we'll be able to help with Akron citizens. And just to go over, Cleveland has a right to counsel program, and it's the scale that's a bit much larger, so the numbers aren't necessarily that relatable. But just to show you, they've had Cuyahoga County realized a combined economic benefit between $11.8 million and $14 million on a total right to counsel investment of $4.5 million over a 2 year or a year and a half period. So you can show you what kind of impact this can have on the community. It keeps kids in school, keeps people at home, so there's more community stability. There's less of a need for housing social safety net responses, so we can the money that's used for that now can get diverted to other people in need. And there's a lot of there's a decreasing incremental need for Medicaid-funded health care as well. So it improves health, all kinds of things, and it really sets people on a path to success. So this could be a really life-changing pilot program for the city of Akron.
Right. Mm-hmm. Stability is the main key to keep everything running smoothly, I guess. So this legislation says, as far as the eligible families, it has to go 7 days prior to eviction, so it seems like this is at the end, that there's
So
need for your services.
Yeah, they would get served with the eviction, and usually the hearings are set out 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So we would need about 7 days' notice to prepare for the case, so that we would have a chance to defend them, and research all their defenses, and also negotiate with the landlords and try and see if we can work out a deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said in your first comments, like 85% of the landlords have attorneys.
Yeah.
But only 3% of the evicted parties have.
Yeah,
And this will bump it up to hopefully 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
To give them a chance. Very good. Annie?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, we want to stress this is a pilot. This is definitely a small subsection of who is available. Again, but it's all about the available dollars. And I think what I'd also like to highlight is some of this is because of back rent, right? So this is about partnering with landlords. My director of housing services, Joe Scalise, is here too. So Joe, hop up if I miss anything. But we work with landlords daily to make sure we can get people caught up on back rent, anything else we can do to create a more balanced system. So it's working for the landlords, it's working for people who we can try to keep in their house, right? So I think that's the ideal situation. So we will leverage every rental assistance tool we have at our capacity, which honestly right now is a little bit limited, and I can't see it growing in the next year. But I think what we can do is pull every lever we can to make sure that we can catch up on rent assistance. I mean, usually in the past, I would say back rent that we help people with the United Way is usually $2,400, $2,500 in back rent just to catch somebody up to keep them in their house. So it costs money, but I mean, again, I think the long-term effects of money saving on the other end, as opposed to getting somebody or a family caught up in the homeless system, right, is much more expensive long-term. So this is a targeted pilot investment to work through our processes with United Way, with legal aid, with the courts, to see how it works, to see how we communicate, to see how we can build structures that then we can scale and grow after the pilot's done.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions from committee members? Mr. Fusco? Oh, okay. Councilwoman Linda Amobian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Fusco. I spoke with Ms. Thomas earlier today, and we talked about the program. Can you share with us how this would work? Because you're talking about roughly, if you look at the numbers from last year, you're talking about 30-some thousand people. Is my math correct? That you could potentially be serving, or is it 3,000? Help me with my terrible math. And I'm the one that's trying to help my niece, bless her dear soul. But anyway, the numbers are pretty high, and we know that we have a terrible situation with evictions. What I'm concerned about is making sure, and Ms. Thomas was telling me 7 days is good compared to what they get now. And Community Legal Aid, you are prepared to represent that kind of number of folks?
Thanks. There were over 3,000 evictions filed last year. With the pilot program funds, we would be able to fund a managing attorney and a full-time staff attorney and half-time of a paralegal. And we'll pull other staff attorneys that know housing in as well. And we think that with that, we'll be able to help about 300 family, or 300 separate cases. So that would push us up to 10%.
So that's where my math should have been, 300 in some cases.
And a case typically will take us like 12 hours or so of staff time. So you might have one that takes like 2, but another one that takes 20. So the average, or 25. So the average works out to about 12 hours a case.
Which is great. And I'm glad that this is a 3-year project so that we can really get some good data. With regard to the United Way's position, I know that you are currently assisting with the rapid rehousing and other housing programs. So the individuals would contact you first, or how would that work?
Yeah, I'll have Joe, why don't you come up to the microphone? Joe can definitely go in detail on the process and the structure right now and how that'll work.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joe Scalise, Director of Housing Services at United Way. I think the overall theme here is we have an eviction problem here in Akron. And we have to do something to mitigate harm at every instance. Not only with the 3,000 people facing eviction each year, but to make the best use of the limited resources that we have available to try to stop these things. The Right to Counsel program will be an important piece at the bottom of how we try to triage eviction. We want to start with doing more aggressive outreach and connecting families that are feeling eviction to either see if there's a possibility for rental assistance or to utilize the already existing court mediation programs that are out there to try to lessen the blow. The more we can do to reduce filings on people being evicted, the less barriers they're going to face when they go to rehouse themselves. Evictions will still happen in our community, but we're trying to make sure that the folks that are facing them are getting all the benefits of the resources that our community provides, whether it's the minimal rental assistance or use of the mediation program, or ultimately these highly prioritized families who are very, very low income in the pilot program to have court representation when they show up at courts. So I think the overall goal of both United Way, the city, and Community Legal Aid as we've worked through this program is to reduce harm to tenants that are being evicted in our community. And in that way, we can also save some landlords the exorbitant cost of going through an eviction process to completion. And hopefully, in the end, we can reduce the number of people having every item they own being set out on the curb at a date after eviction. And that's ultimately the kind of harm reduction we're chasing here for the residents in Akron.
Very good. Can you talk about the advertisement? How would people learn about this program? What are we going to do to spread the word?
One of the most exciting things in preparation for this has been the coordination we've already established with the courts. So we believe there's an opportunity to work with Tara Mosley and others in the court system to figure out, okay, who got filed on? And when they get that packet, can we make sure that they get the information about right to counsel? And then underneath that, we can use some of our existing United Way personnel in 211 and housing to try to do some outreach and connect to people. Unfortunately, a lot of the result of what we see when someone gets filed is they tend to ghost the situation, right? They don't respond or they don't show up at court, and then that damage is done. And what we want to try to do is increase that outreach and connection so people utilize those harm reduction resources that are here in the community.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you. Makes
Mr.
sense.
Chair.
Makes sense. Any other questions from committee members? Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thanks. Guessing that this is going to be, this is Akron specific versus district, Akron Court Muni District, Akron specific.
City of Akron, yes, sir.
Okay, guessing, okay. And then the other piece of it is the 3,055 evictions that you were speaking of. Is that the ones that are actually filed, or is those the ones, because the process, and I think we need to learn in terms of like which ones are filed and which ones actually go through the whole process? I understand the 7 days, but.
Yeah, those are the ones that are actually filed, so the 3,055. I can't speak to how many go through with the foreclosure, with the eviction, just because the data is from the court, and their data is kind of limited in determining, like, okay, was it dismissed because the person left the house early? Was it dismissed because they came to a resolution, or was it some sort of other judgment? So it's just the way the data breaks down.
Gotcha.
We're not able to tell. Yeah.
Yeah, we had heard that that the numbers are quite different between actual filings in the beginning and actual evictions at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Councilman Eric Garrett.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I am overjoyed with Mr. Scalise's explanation and just his level of how much he cares for the community. This is going to be a game changer. I'd like to thank Ms. Thomas and the rest of the crew there for putting together a package using our funds this way to help our community. Everybody benefits from this. This is not just a person being evicted is going to benefit. These are the landlords who stress, who really want to give people a chance, but are going down a path where they can't afford to go back and forth with these individuals. This is a major game changer. Now you have an opportunity for them to deal with somebody who can legally explain things. This is amazing. So I just want to thank you for you guys bringing this. This is something I am extremely in support of. And I just like to thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak on this. Thank you, guys.
Very good. Any other comments here? What would be your pleasure for today?
We would respectfully request passage.
And would you like to suspend the rules?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a motion from committee to suspend the rules with a favorable report? Got a motion?
So move.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Suspension of the rules. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much.
United Way.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. And with that, our committee is adjourned.
That is the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet in regular session at 6:30. Thank you.